It wasn't supposed to go like this. Karoline Leavitt had built her career on sharp words and louder opinions. She wasn't afraid to take shots at people. In fact, she liked it. It got her attention, followers, interviews. But sitting in her living room staring at the words she just typed, none of that confidence was left. She didn't think she'd ever be here, writing a message that sounded more like begging than strength. For months, Karoline had made Jasmine Crockett the target. Every podcast, every live panel, every sharp joke at someone else's expense seemed to land right where she wanted it. Jasmine never took the bait. While Karoline rolled her eyes, laughed on air, and pushed the line between bold and reckless, Jasmine did something nobody expected. She stayed calm. Jasmine Crockett wasn't new to conflict. She had seen it up close, not just in politics, but in the daily grind of community work, legal fights, and the kind of coded attacks that don't always make headlines. But this one was different. This was a direct hit, in public, personal, and sharp. And still, she didn't flinch. She didn't tweet back. She didn't argue on camera. She didn't even roll her eyes. She just kept showing up to work. That's what made Karoline nervous. It wasn't the lawsuit itself. Not at first. It was the silence. The more Karoline talked, the more Jasmine didn't. And the more Jasmine stayed steady, the more Karoline started spinning out. And that's how this moment happened. A Wednesday morning in Dallas, Jasmine sitting at her attorney's office, stacks of deposition notes in front of her. Her team moving like usual, answering emails, setting up court prep, checking in with supporters. Everything was steady, normal, controlled, until Samira, Jasmine's chief of staff, walked in with her phone, not panicked, not smiling, just serious enough to break the room's rhythm. "You need to see this," she said. On the screen was the message no one expected. A direct text from Karoline Leavitt herself. No lawyers, no managers, just words. "In needs. Thought I was bold. I see now I was reckless. Please stop the lawsuit." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even that long. But it said everything. Not confidence, not strength, not leadership, just raw desperation. And right there, the story shifted. Not because of the lawsuit's amount, not because of headlines. Because Karoline, the woman who always said she wasn't afraid of anyone, had folded. Quietly. Personally. This wasn't a fight over ideas anymore. It was a fight about who would control the story, and who would keep their dignity while doing it. The question was never going to be whether Karoline wanted out. The real question was why now? Why did the same person who spent months laughing at Jasmine Crockett suddenly lower her voice? And how did one private message turn into an $80 million storm that no one, not Karoline, not her team, not the public, saw coming? The message wasn't supposed to get out. It was never written for the public, never crafted by a PR team, never filtered through lawyers. It was just 88 words, short, direct, almost small. But when it leaked, it exploded like gasoline on a dry field. Nobody from Jasmine's team leaked it. That was clear. Jasmine had said one thing when she first saw the message. Don't leak it. Let someone else do that if they want to. And someone did. An anonymous journalist dropped a screenshot on Twitter late in the afternoon. No caption, no hashtags, just a quiet bomb waiting to go off. Within minutes, retweets stacked up. Within 20 minutes, podcast hosts were already booking episodes around it. By lunch the next day, cable news had broken from their regular coverage to start panels with titles like "The Apology Heard Around the Internet" and "When Silence Wins." Nobody could agree on what it meant. Half the internet looked at that leaked message and saw a rare thing. A public figure being human. "She's breaking," one post read. "Let her go." Another person wrote, "We ask people to say sorry. She's saying sorry. Why's that not enough?" But the other half wasn't buying it. No, you don't get to tear someone down for months and then send a private "oops, my bad." That's not growth. That's damage control. Podcasts went live that night with guests arguing over free speech, apology culture, public forgiveness. Some hosts said this whole situation was proof that people were too sensitive. Others said it was about time someone got held accountable for throwing shots at black women like it was sport. One clip on TikTok said it best: "You don't get to torch someone publicly and then beg privately. That's not brave. That's cowardly with nice words." And through all of that noise, Jasmine Crockett sat still. No tweet, no interview, no reply. Samira kept checking her phone that whole evening. Notifications were coming in non-stop. People asking for statements, news anchors requesting interviews, even fellow politicians wanting Jasmine to set the record straight. "They want a response," Samira finally said, holding the phone out to her. Jasmine didn't even blink. "They already got it." That's what nobody could understand at first. The silence was the answer. No hashtags, just steady, controlled calm. While the internet argued, Karoline's team was in full panic mode behind the scenes. Her PR rep begged for a statement. "Let's frame it right. Let's show growth. We can soften this if we get ahead of it." Karoline wouldn't budge. "They think I'm weak. I'm not giving them that." But privately, she was cracking. During one late Zoom meeting, her voice slipped. "I'm not begging. I'm setting boundaries," she snapped at her team. What she didn't know was that someone on that very call was already recording it. That clip leaked the next morning, and suddenly, everyone could hear what her face had already been showing. This wasn't strength. This was someone slipping and trying too hard to act like they weren't. By the second day, news panels brought in body language experts to break down her video interviews frame by frame. "She's performing confidence," one said, "but the hands give it away. The eyes don't match the words." While Karoline scrambled, Jasmine's donation page lit up. Money poured in from people who had never donated to her campaigns before. Some people wrote notes with their donations: "For your discipline, for your dignity, for staying steady," while they shouted. At the same time, the cracks around Karoline kept spreading. Sponsors started backing out quietly, pulling their names from her podcast promotions. Emails came in with lines like, "We're adjusting our brand partnerships for the next quarter." But everyone knew what that really meant. Brands don't like chaos they can't control, and Karoline had become chaos in a dress and lipstick with no clear exit. But what shocked everyone most wasn't just the internet reaction, it was where the conversation started showing up next. A civics teacher in Sacramento paused her class to ask students what they thought of the moment. Is silence weakness, or can silence be power? A church in Birmingham gave a full sermon on restraint, quoting Jasmine's refusal to fight back with noise. Even a university media class used the story as an example of public relations gone completely wrong, titling their lesson, "When Saying Nothing Says Everything." The story was everywhere, not because Jasmine pushed it, she didn't, but because the contrast between the two women was too sharp to ignore. One couldn't stop talking. The other didn't need to. And the more Karoline fought to explain herself, the weaker she looked. By the end of the first week, a popular podcast released an episode titled "The Blueprint of Quiet Power" and listed Jasmine Crockett's silence as the lead example of modern resistance without shouting. But by then, the lawsuit itself wasn't even the main story anymore. The real story had become the shift happening in real time. The moment when the internet, schools, talk shows, even family dinner tables started realizing that strength doesn't always sound loud. Sometimes it sounds like nothing at all. For Karoline, that silence wasn't just uncomfortable. It was dangerous, because the more she spoke, the more people stopped believing her. And the more Jasmine stayed quiet, the louder her presence became. The shift didn't come with fireworks. It came with a PDF file attached to an email. No dramatic music, no breaking news banner. Just a quiet little document that carried enough weight to crack everything open. The title at the top said everything: "How to Disrupt Progressive Women of Color." It wasn't just mean, it was planned. Inside were color-coded notes, bullet points, full sentences, rehearsed like lines for a school play. Right there, in plain words, accuse of playing the A. Victim. Pivot to personal responsibility. Don't let her control the tone. It was the kind of thing you hope isn't real until it's sitting in front of you with someone's name on it. Brandon, Jasmine's attorney, read through it twice, jaw set. Then he said the words that changed everything. It's not recklessness anymore. It's strategy. And that's when it clicked. Everything Karoline had said during that panel, all those off-the-cuff remarks, the little smiles after the jabs, none of it was by accident. She hadn't lost control of the conversation that day. She had planned it. She knew exactly what she was doing when she tried to drag Jasmine into a shouting match. And Jasmine had refused to play along. But while Jasmine stayed steady, Karoline was falling apart in public, trying hard to make it look like she was in charge. After weeks of silence, Karoline finally showed up on a fringe talk show out of Boise, Idaho. Grainy video, crooked flag in the background. No big network, just her, a couch and a host ready to hand her the microphone with zero pushback. That's when it happened. The Boise clip. One line, 10 seconds. The race narrative is getting old. She laughed when she said it, like it was some brave truth no one else was willing to admit. But this wasn't bravery. This was someone showing exactly who they were when they thought the right people were listening. It backfired instantly. Clips of that moment bounced across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube faster than anyone could try to spin it. College students reposted it with captions like, "Say it louder for the racists in the back." Journalists wrote whole columns around it. Activists who had stayed neutral finally stepped forward. No one could sit on the fence anymore. You either saw the problem or you were the problem. Jasmine didn't move, didn't tweet, didn't speak to cameras. She just stayed steady, like she had the whole time. And slowly, older clips of her from 2 years earlier started coming back. One speech at a community event surfaced, where she had once said, "You don't need volume to lead. You need clarity." Now that quote was everywhere. Posters, Instagram graphics, printed on t-shirts. The shift was complete. Public opinion didn't just lean toward Jasmine anymore. It stood with her, firm, unshaken, certain. But while Jasmine sat calm, Karoline's whole empire cracked in real time. Sponsors started dropping like dominoes. A skincare brand that had used Karoline in ads just 2 months before wiped her photos from their website with no explanation. Podcast platforms removed her show. Even the conservative blogs that used to defend her decided it wasn't worth the mess. And the personal losses started cutting deeper than the professional ones. Her fiancé left first. Quiet exit. No fighting. Just bags packed and a cold, "I don't even know who you are anymore." Then came the assistant. Left her office key in an envelope, mailed it back with no note. It didn't stop there. The worst blow came not from an email or a brand, but from someone Karoline used to trust. A former campaign staffer leaked a full recording of one of Karoline's old prep sessions. In that recording, you could hear her say it plainly. "If the panel has any black woman on it, I want 2 lines ready. One soft, one sharp. They're easy to throw off. You just have to sound like you're telling the truth." It was no longer about bad judgment or bad timing. It was a script. And now everyone could hear it. Jasmine's team stayed focused. No celebrating, no press parades. Brandon sat with her late one night in the office, flipping through legal files with steady hands. That's when the offer landed. 8 figures, no admission of guilt, no public apology. But one condition. Karoline would step away from all public platforms, podcasts, interviews, appearances, for at least 2 years. Silence. Brandon set the offer down on the table between them. "It's accountability or it's a shortcut," he said quietly. He didn't tell her what to do. He didn't have to. Jasmine didn't answer right away. She just sat there, still, steady, breathing slow. She wasn't thinking about Karoline. She was thinking about every woman who's ever had to sit across from someone smiling while trying to tear them down. She was thinking about the next girl, in the next room, who'd be asked to swallow her voice so someone else could be loud. She knew exactly what this offer was. It wasn't just money. It was a message. And now the choice was hers. It took Jasmine 2 full days to decide. The legal offer sat on her desk like a quiet dare. No apology, no public statement, just a large number on paper and a promise that Karoline would disappear for 2 years. Jasmine didn't rush. She didn't call press. She didn't even tell anyone in her circle what she was thinking. She just kept going to work, like nothing had changed. That second evening, alone in her office, she reached into her bag and pulled out a folded note. The one from Amira, that middle school girl who had handed it to her weeks earlier. The words were written in shaky handwriting, but the meaning was steady. "Thank you for not letting them talk to you like you don't matter." Jasmine read it once, then again. That was the whole reason she was here. Not for headlines, not for cameras, for that. When Brandon arrived the next morning, tired from another night going through paperwork, Jasmine didn't even wait for him to ask. She handed him the contract and said, "We don't sign for money, we sign for closure." That was it. When the news broke, the headlines were fast. Jasmine Crockett accepts settlement in $80 million lawsuit against Karoline Leavitt. But it was the smaller print that told the truth. Karoline to leave public life for a minimum of 2 years. No press conferences, no long Twitter threads. Jasmine just posted one photo, the front steps of the Dallas courthouse, quiet, empty, no filters, with a caption that simply said, "Thank you to those who never asked me to stay silent." That one post got over 200,000 shares in 2 days. No one needed her to explain it. They already knew. While Jasmine kept working, Karoline disappeared. Not like someone on vacation, like someone erased. Her podcasts were gone. Sponsors vanished without a single word. Even her personal friends stopped showing up. The group chats dried up. Her press inbox sat empty. But the story didn't stay in the headlines for long. That's how these things go. Big headlines shrink. Loud conversations fade. But something else happened this time. It stuck in small ways, in smaller rooms with people who don't usually make headlines. At schools, teachers started using Jasmine's story in workshops on conflict, how to hold power without anger. At Spelman during their leadership series, one quote from Jasmine became the theme. "Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy." What had started as a legal fight turned into something much larger, a shift in how people thought about dignity, power, and when to speak. For Jasmine, the moment that mattered most wasn't on a stage or in front of cameras. It happened weeks later, standing in a simple gym with folding chairs, meeting students face to face. One girl raised her hand and asked, "Do you always have to yell to be heard?" Jasmine shook her head gently. "No," she said. "You don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to mean it when you do." Samira, standing in the back, smiled. Later she'd tell Jasmine, "You made quiet the loudest thing in the room." That's what stuck. Not noise, not fighting, not online drama. Just certainty. Jasmine didn't have to crush anyone. She didn't have to win with shouting. She won by refusing to shrink. And that left a mark way deeper than any viral post could. In the end, this wasn't about a lawsuit. It was about what happens when you don't fold. It was about showing every young girl watching that strength doesn't have to come dressed in rage. It can sit steady. It can breathe. It can wait for the world to catch up. Real strength doesn't need volume. It just needs a voice.